Hello.
Hello to you, it's me.
We're live.
We're live. Second live, ladies and gentlemen. Second. On my days.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Faithful Marriage. He's Erin and I'm Deborah. And today we're going to talk about, can Christians marry non-Christians?
That's what we're going to talk about.
Yes, we are.
Is it a simple answer?
Yes and no.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It is and it is not a simple answer.
Yeah, because let's face it, life is a bit complicated. And there's a lot of people in the world who are not Christians.
Mhm.
And if you're human, you should communicate with all people.
Mhm.
And so, sometimes it can feel like a bit of a grey area. So we're going to go through 3 answers to this question.
That's right. So, the shortest answer is no. But the reason for that is because, as we've mentioned in a previous video, is that you're not supposed to be unequally yoked with non-Christians. So we are specifically, that no answer specifically is for Christians who, are trying to live out how this, as the Bible speaks. I think it's in Galatians chapter 5, I think.
It's Corinthians. I've got it here. It is... Dun, 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 dun. There we go. In 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, it says, "Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness?" And if you want to understand more about what does unequally yoked mean, go check out our description and the link will be there for the video we've done in the past.
Yeah.
But I think the key thing is that when people hear like Christians are explicitly told not to marry non-Christians, that it can come off really bigoted.
Yep.
And it can come off like really like self-righteous. And like
it
it's like what fellowship has light with darkness. And like I think the really key important thing is to remember here is actually for the benefit of both people.
Yeah, it is.
Because marriage is supposed to be a lifelong commitment. And if you have a marriage where you have fundamental life differences, how you're going to live your life, how you're even going to speak, how you conduct your personage, how you raise your children.
At a very root level, how or what conducts and what do you expect out of life will be completely different from other people. Okay, you got some fundamentals. You want to be happy, you want to live a long life, you want to do nice things, hopefully, you want to be kind to other people, but the end destination, where do you expect to go? Where do you expect them to go?
Yeah, like imagine the heartache if you're a Christian and your spouse that you've married and lived your life with intentionally knowing that they are not a Christian, and you've entered your marriage in that phase, and then you're basically saying, I love you, but I don't think you'll live for eternity with God.
Basically.
It's pretty mashed up, really. Yeah. And so it's not a case of bigotry, it's more a case of God sort of giving a blanket of like
protection
for both sides, because it's all the flip side as well. It's like if you get married when you're not to a non-Christian as a Christian, what are you expecting them to change? Like, what's your...
I mean, at a deep level, if you've married someone and said, I accept you as my husband or wife, and then think to yourself, but I would really like for you to become
fundamentally different,
fundamentally Christian. So the one who is already a believer in Christ, they will say, I really want for you to become a Christian. And the other one might be thinking, I can take it or leave it. But really what I'd like is for you to join my side. Either way,
you're going to a marriage expecting the person to and when I say fundamentally, it's not like a crazy person, but more of like a basic, like
at root level
to
change. But you've already married them, so then you think it. So then the person on either side, you're thinking, well, you married me. Why should I change? You married me for who I was. So that's a danger. So when the Bible's talking about not being unequally yoked, it's literally a safeguard, but it's a heart safeguard to protect you from heartache and to protect them from heartache. So that's number one. At core level, the answer is no.
And if you want more information on unequally yoked, go check out the description. But this is where it gets to the grey areas. Can a Christian marry a non-Christian? Okay, not like basic, like this is the answer number 2. Like, yes, in a way, because let me explain.
This is
So his spider sense again, like
yeah. I'm already sort of thinking, hold on, what am I going to have to
okay,
sort of
because it's
counteract?
really in the key word is should. It's actually should a Christian marry a non-Christian? No, they shouldn't. Can they? Well, yes, because you have free will.
You have
so
the law
you
of the
can
land.
you
You've
can
got the
do
law of the
that.
land.
Yeah, and it's not against like the law of most countries, not against the law of this country. And so yes, you can, but you will have consequences to that choice.
Yeah. And so, well, but see, this is where it gets awkward. So, for example, let's say you have children, or let's say you've recently converted, but
Sort of, we'll come on to that one.
And basically, so you have one law that supersedes another law. So I'll give you an example from the Old Testament. We're not supposed to lie. One of the 10 commandments is don't lie, right?
Top 10 rule.
And then you get in the Old Testament, you get Rahab is commended, even though she lied. Now that's an itchy one. Why does that happen?
How does that work?
How does it work, right? And here's why. Because if you look at the scale of priorities from God's point of view, see, it was really, really easy for us to be legalistic about everything. Easy.
I can already
right?
feel like the justification. People are like, yes. Yeah.
Right. But then if you look at the priorities from God's point of view, it would be literally this. She saved people's lives by lying. In fact,
it's like the value of life comes. But okay, what's your point on this on terms of marriage?
Okay, so now remember, marriage is a covenant relationship. Okay. Yeah. So that is, if you treat marriage properly, that is a covenant relationship. And having children together is also a bond, which is a significant bond. So I think it's very difficult, and this is why it's a gray area. And I struggle with it a little bit, because on one hand I want to be legalistic, and on the other hand I want to be empathetic, but it's very difficult to find the right balance.
Okay, so if a person is not, they're not married yet. Okay, so what is that's where we're at. So if you're not married, and one of you is Christian and one of you is not a Christian,
no, then the answer is no.
No. So by law, like of the country, yes, you can, but by biblical example and understanding, it is strongly advised not to.
That puts you back to the unequally yoked thing. Why? Because where are you going with this?
I think the grey area that I was trying to get to is when you're dating, okay? So most people don't just, hello, here comes, okay, no, most people don't just randomly go from like, I've met you, to let's get married. That's not very common, at least in this country, right? And so what happens if you really like a person, maybe you've met them at uni, or you met them in a coffee shop, or you, I don't know about like online, but then you're going to know their background. But say you've met them in the normal old school kind of way, in person somewhere physically.
Yes.
And you've hit it off, and you're like, and then it's sort of after you've now come to discover that this other person is not a Christian. Where do you go from there?
This is a discipline, because at that point, really, they're friend zoned. They have to be. Because unless you could try to convert them in the end, but really that's a misleading way to go.
Yeah, I think also you don't convert a person.
No. You understand what
God's.
That's okay.
Not you.
Fair enough.
God converts a person.
Fair enough. But my point is, you can aim towards that their salvation as salvation. But if you're aiming for their salvation so you can marry, I would suggest that this is rather self-seeking.
Yeah.
So the short answer again, if you find you really like them, you're hitting it off, and then you find out that you're saved and they're not saved, the answer is no.
You got a friend zone for it.
Because of answer number one, you're going to have different destinations, and it's heartache.
The thing is, like, we did a previous video on like, what does the Bible say about dating, and that is in our description below, and that will give you more information and some more thoughts about dating, because dating is not in the Bible, so it can seem like quite a grey area. But with dating and that kind of thing is that person has value, and if you're
Mhm.
basically thinking, oh well, I'm not going to actually marry them, I don't see this relationship going anywhere, I'm just going
Then
to have some like nice I'm just going to have some nice times, I want someone to like go to random places with me and maybe just want to kiss them or something, but like if that's what all you're doing, you're using that
that's
person
right.
and you're not
Because
treating them with value. You're like, okay, well, I don't see us I'm never going to commit to you with my whole being. I'm just going to sort of use you for nice things, and then I'm going to leave you. And that's not valuing a person.
no, because that really is separate destinations. That's isn't it? Because at some point you say, "Oh well, I can't marry them because they're not saved." Okay, but
Why did you use all their
why?
time?
Right. So you're wasting their time where they might want to get married to someone. Maybe marriage for them isn't even in the picture. So what happens? You eventually have to put the emergency brake on and say, sorry, hold on a minute now. There's only so far and no further, right? At which point they're left disappointed. They don't have the same worldview as you. Therefore, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? So that one, you go back to point number one, which is I'm afraid not.
Yoked. Okay, so then number 3, which is another like weird gray area, and I think we've actually seen this on YouTube, people asking these questions like, what do you do if you're married and then one of you converts?
Stay married.
Yeah, Paul's quite explicit about this. There's no like unless the relationship is like abusive or something, like you've made that commitment to that covenant commitment. You don't just sort of be like,
well,
God's not about breaking up families.
God is all about relationship. That's number one. So we get back to that whole Rahab thing where you have priorities, isn't it?
It does not mean you stay in an abusive relationship.
No, that's not what I was saying.
That's not what we're saying. But God, if you're happily married and one of you is converted, you don't just leave the person. That's just so horrible. The heartache, like, oh my days.
And then that gets involved with the kids and stable relationship with children involved and all that kind of stuff. Let's be clear. People can be messy and complicated, but God is the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're already married. One of you gets converted. Praise the Lord for that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe they'll join you, but either way, stay married.
And like
stay
Paul,
married.
I think Paul, I think it's in Corinthians. He does actually talk about when he was writing to the church about that scenario, because that was a thing, especially in the early church, where you had like all of the different religions that was happening in the area at the time, and there would have been people who did commit their life to Jesus, and then that like their husband or their wife didn't, and it was like, well, what do you do now? But it's making sure that the other person knows,
That's
because your life is not going to be the same. How you're going to interact as a couple, it's not going to be the same, because you are not the same. You're
fundamentally
different. That doesn't mean like your personality just like disappears. That's not what God's about. But like, how you see things, even like your speech, how you're going to interact with them, it might be different, but also what you might expect from them might be different. So it's not a case of, that's where people can be like, oh, the Bible says you can't be married to a non-believer, but I'm already married, or I'm about to get married. No, it's like,
hold on, but the about to get married, that is slightly a different thing, because literally that would be you're not already married, and then see now this is an ultra murky gray area. So let's have a scenario. Now, first of all, before I mention what I'm going to mention, coming up with these scenarios is a bit difficult, right? Because what you can do is kind of back yourself into a weird, not happening scenario. However, like for example,
I'm going to worry about something that hasn't happened to me ever yet.
Well, okay, you say you don't lie. Someone comes into your house and threatens to
kill your wife.
Kill your wife if you don't. If they ask you, is your wife here? Are you going to lie? Yes, I would. And why? Because God's priorities of values. Anyway, so here's the scenario. Okay, you're about to get married. This is a tough one. If you be absolute and legalistic, this is a tough one. Okay, you're about to get married, but you get saved, but they don't. Really, going by the rules that we read, the answer is no.
That doesn't mean you
Okay.
have to just leave them though.
But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
No,
that
I'm
there's
just
a
saying.
right. But I mean, I'm finished with you. No, you can't do that. Right. Number 2 scenario. Okay. This is where it gets ultra murky, and this sort of thing does happen.
Yeah.
You're not married, but you do have children. What you're going to do now? And you get saved.
My personal thing on that, okay, and I know it's just my opinion, I suppose, but I feel like I've got like biblical
backing for it.
backing. I can't give an example because my biblical knowledge needs to build. But like, I feel like a thing in me doesn't like the idea of that you just leave the person, especially if you have children, does not sit well with me whatsoever, because God is God about stability for the children. And if you're just leaving the person, that's not teaching your child stability.
No.
That's not giving your children stability.
No.
That's not on either way, children need both a mother and a father.
Agreed.
So if it's the mum and the mum leaves mashed up, if it's the dad and the dad leaves mashed up, it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
You know, God has designed it so that children have both, and so there is a balance and all the rest of it. And to just leave that person,
that's
like, and if you have children, like you've committed physically with that person. That is that like sex is not just like a physical act. You've committed to that person. If you're with that person, you've got so to me, just to like leave them, that's not right.
I think that's a bit destructive, and it doesn't fit well, does it?
And it doesn't sit well. And I think it would cause such heartache. And I just think it's a really bad witness to as well, because if you're with a person and then you just leave them because you've become a Christian, well, that does not put a good taste of Christianity in that person's mouth.
I don't think, neither do I. No, but hold on a minute though. Neither do I think that you can just carry on regardless. I think this is something that you have to seriously, now, you have to seriously and prayerfully consult the Lord about it, because it's like the first example, priority of life has to be the priority rather than convenience, rather than legalism, oh man, or traditionalism just for the sake of tradition.
Someone just put in a live chat, hang on, go on, carry on, sorry.
So I think that what I would suggest is that none of this is stuff that can be done like carelessly or blasé. I think that really this is something that takes a real serious consideration. So for example, you've got children, you're not yet married, one of you becomes a Christian. What do you do? I really think that you have to take your time before you just make drastic decisions on that one.
So KS on the live chat says, if you aren't married, children or not, you can continue to have a relationship with them, just not a marriage-like relationship. So it would be different because you have a different outlook on life.
Yeah.
But I think just to leave that person and just basically make that person as a single parent, whatever, like mum or dad, God's not about breaking up families. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one. I mean, we know people that they've been married already. One of them gets saved. They stay married, which is, I would suggest, is the right way. And then, lo and behold, later on in life, the partner who wasn't yet saved becomes saved, and wow, what a huge difference for the better in their life.
On the flip side of that is someone said they stayed married for a while, and then someone says you need to pick God or me, and then
that's true.
Picked God. So there is going to be a point where somebody has to give,
but that one there is not. If someone confronts the person who is saved and says you have to pick God or me, at that point you can clearly see that is not an aligned path.
No.
That is where they are specifically choosing a separate destination. So, and if they're already married, then that shows a break point. Marriage and Christianity and being saved, plus should you marry a person who is not saved, it's murky waters. Let's be clear.
It's murky waters because people are messy now, and they've become like societies. It feels like even more messy. There's so many more scenarios where back in the day, there was a bit more A, B, C, D option. Like now there's all the letters of the options that are available out there.
It seems in the past, it was kind of like, 50 years ago, hold on, can I just have your hand? We will be married now. That's it. But I'm not sure that's there.
I'm not sure if apart from like wartime, I don't know if that's like a good idea. But anyway, anyway, moving on. So like, I think as a whole, can a Christian marry a non-Christian?
Legally speaking,
yes. And free will, yes, you can. However, should you marry a non-Christian, like before your wedding day? No, because we are not to be unequally yoked. And if you want to know more about what does that actually mean, go and check out our description.
That's right.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us on this live. We hope that it's been useful, and we will be live again soon.
Yes, indeed.
So keep a lookout on our Instagram at Faithful Marriage.
So quick shout out just to say what's up and hi to the Snipe Life. Appreciate you. And for KS for getting involved. Appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. Okay. Until next time. Bye.
Bye. And again.